In his most recent press conference, Matt Rule mentioned that statistically speaking, Illinois and Nebraska are mirror images of each other going into this Friday night game. Illinois has a +8 in turnover differential, forcing 9 turnovers already this season, and they will be Nebraska's first real test. So, Gary, why are you so cocky and arrogant that the Huskers are going to win? First, before you answer, I know you've done your research, but to everyone watching, Gary did not accidentally watch last year's game for about an hour thinking it was this year's game, so don't say it.
I'm way too smart to do something stupid like that. You know, I'm very technically sound. I think it's going to be their toughest game, but seeing where the teams they've played had success against them, I think we're better in all those areas. I think by far we're going to have the best quarterback they played against. I know Kansas quarterback was Big 12 player of the year or whatever he was, some award from last year, but he's a really athletic and mobile quarterback. So I think that had a lot more to do with it than his recognition of defenses, checks, pre-snap, and then decision making and accuracy. They run a lot of man and they do a lot of one high safety. I'd be shocked if they do a lot of that against us. I pray they do, because I think you'd be able to see guys like Lloyd and Barney really blow the top off or give them fits, especially utilizing some man beater type routes coming off of little pick type plays, the things that we like to do in the backfield, screens, stuff off of motion or jet sweep type plays, swing passes. And then I think we can create huge problems for them with our tight ends, especially if you use Carter Nelson more like a slot type or an extra tight end along with Fedoni. I think they'll have a very, very difficult time covering those two in man. It seemed like the handful of times I noticed when they were going zone, it's a really soft zone or guys aren't maybe quite as sound in their zone assignments and they got gouged for pretty good yards. On the other side of the ball, I think the potential for them to really chop us up in that mid-range, how we give up so much underneath the zones, will be there. I think it's going to be a lot of what we've seen as far as they'll probably be able to move the ball fairly easy down the field on us, and then things will really tighten up as the field shortens towards the red zone. I don't know how much emphasis Rule's going to try to put on the run game early on. I know he talked in his press conference and he said it going back to last year. The idea is to get a decent lead and then take the air out of the ball and really, pound the rock as much as possible and eat time of possession. So I think that has a lot to do with maybe people being frustrated, thinking we've let up in the second half. I think more of that's by design and trying to take control of the clock more so than run the score up. But also there's things that need to be executed better late in the game. One thing he brought up, I loved hearing him bring it up in his press conference, was he acknowledged how they have a lot of trouble with quarterbacks running on them. I've been bringing it up for a couple weeks. The end of last year, I really noticed it. And their quarterback is that type of a quarterback. He can run when things break down. And we saw a couple quarterback draw designs that gouged, like Kansas. We were watching that game a little bit last week against Central Michigan. I hope that doesn't rear its head too much. But I mean, if I'm Illinois, I'm looking at that heavily and trying to expose that every chance I get. So I hope that there's some kind of wrinkle or maybe like a spy type deal they're going to try to do, because this guy, he's not like a heavy option quarterback or looking to run all the time, but when pockets break down or they see something in the defense, they do utilize him. And like I said, that's definitely one of Nebraska's Achilles heel, so to speak, on the defensive side of the ball. But, watching Kansas was the main one, because I feel like Kansas is probably their best competition they played in these 3 games so far. They didn't bring a ton of extra guys. There was times where they did, but they seemed to be able to get penetration fairly easy. I use easy lightly, but they don't have the size or the athleticism, in my opinion, that we have with our main front four, especially if Jamari Butler's back in, which it sounds like he's going to be. And there was times where they got pushed around in the trenches on the defensive side of the ball. And that's where I think we've kind of agreed on and talked about how the offensive line for sure looks better than it has, but still seems to be better in the run game than the pass game. And I don't know, I have mixed emotions with that, because when you watch them, they like to bring extra guys. A lot of times they'll turn it into a bluff where it looks like they're going to blitz and bring guys and they drop into the man or, a more shallow zone. But I think that the passing game, if they have kind of the same game plan they had last week of pass heavy early and then switch to run game, I think we'll have pretty good success as long as the defense can maintain that bend but don't break. I kind of look for this game to be a lower scoring just because I think we should be able to move the ball decent. And I think they're going to be able to move the ball. I just hope it is more field goals for them than touchdowns. I don't think this is going to be a shutout type game or something where you can expect to only give up 10 points just because they have two really good receivers. Their back's shifty. Their quarterback's not out there trying to force crazy passes where I don't see that there being a ton of turnovers, 1 or 2 turnovers total. I think we should be happy with if we can get that. I think you get a pretty clean game, pretty physical game, both sides. And I think it'll look more like your prototypical Big Ten type matchup.
They definitely stopped the run better than they stopped the pass. This is going to be fun to watch Dylan probably be put in a situation like last week. On our end, I think the biggest thing that we have to worry about is the tackling. I think it was someone in our live stream that pointed out, I shouldn't take the credit away from you if it was you. They pointed out one of the guys, I won't mention him by name or number. It was you. Because you said you used to do it. You were so lightweight in college. So he was just launching his body at the ball carrier's legs, not attempting to wrap up. And I felt like other guys were doing that too. I think if they can tackle well, they'll be in so much better position because Illinois, I think, can make us pay much more on the scoreboard. And if we do this again, we're going to be in trouble. The first 2 weeks against what you would think would be stronger opponents, we allowed as a defense like 4 yards after contact. Last week against Northern Iowa, it was 180. It was 100 more yards after contact.
Yeah, I think our DBs are going to have their hands full with some of their receivers. So it is going to be important to get guys down, once they do make catches. And Rule brought it up, talked about it. Obviously, we were talking about it during the game. Everybody in the chat was. It wasn't a secret, but I really liked how he said it upset the defense. Like they were upset about it. It's not like something where you got to go in and show them what they did wrong. They were well aware of it. They did do a better job in the second half. It still wasn't perfect. I'm glad Northern Iowa is as physical as they are, so it doesn't make me feel so bad. You go from a not very physical team in Colorado to that game. It's like, okay, these guys aren't just falling so easy. They're not the more finesse, speedy athletes. They're more physical power type guys. So it's kind of to be expected, but I'm glad they had that game to kind of prepare and know what they needed to work on instead of going from Colorado to Illinois and like that 180 you're talking about ended up being 250 or something like that. And then, like he said, you're going to lose that game if that happens when you're in the Big Ten. For as hard as we all as Husker fans and you and I have been on Satterfield, I think a lot of what he likes doing pre-snap motion wise, things out of the backfield will actually be a benefit in this game. I think guys like Ramir Johnson, maybe Emmett Johnson, you get them involved a little bit in the pass game. I think that's kind of your secret sauce, so to speak, for the way they like to play defense, where you can really exploit them and get some linebackers on running back matchups. Like I said before, utilizing the tight ends. And then if they do start falling into that one high man deal every so often, you should have some shots over the top. And Raiola talked about his underthrow to Lloyd that got picked off. I think he's probably just dying for a chance to just heave one and let him go underneath and get it. So I think we'd be able to make him pay a time or two on that, especially if we can kind of lull them with those backfield passes, swing passes, short stuff, and then obviously the running game. But it's going to be tough for sure. They can't come out flat. They can't get lackadaisical on defense, kind of like they were last week. They got to be ready for a real physical match, but I think they will be. And I think at this stage in the Matt Rule rebuild, a lot more of the pieces are in place and everything's kind of clicking to the point where it's just going to be a little too much for Illinois. But they are solid. You can't sleep on them. They're a resilient team. You can't get up 2 scores or something like that and think, okay, we got this one in the bag, because they will keep scrapping and claw their way back into it. So, I look forward to this being more of a competitive game and just kind of seeing now. Rule talked about these first 3 games were more like a preseason type scenario to get ready for the Big Ten. I'm curious now to see they're not trying to put certain things on tape for teams to study, keep certain things off film for Big Ten teams. Like, I'm ready to kind of just see what we can look forward to going forward the rest of the season now that we're finally in the Big Ten play.
My score prediction, and I actually feel pretty good about this one, 24-14 Nebraska.
I'm not far off. I'm saying about 27-17. I think there'll be a couple field goals where drives kind of stall. I'm hoping we hold them to more than giving up touchdowns, but that actually might be a little on the high side. I kind of expect this game to be fairly low. for both teams. But like you said before, I hate doing the score predictions. So that's what I'm throwing out there. And hopefully it's in the ballpark. But I kind of feel like I know what to look for and what to expect from Illinois. Like I said, I like our odds based on that. So unless they come out with something crazy they haven't put on tape, or we try getting too flashy with something, I think it'll be a fun game to watch for sure.
Tell us what you guys think in the comments. Do you have a score prediction for this game?